Hi everybody, my name is Lindsay and today I'm here to tell you why you should be reading the Once Upon a Con series by Ashley Poston. And if you've already read this series, then we can geek out about it in the comments together. So for introductions, the Once Upon a Con series is a young adult trilogy comprised of 3 fairy tale retellings. The first book, Geekerella, is a retelling of Cinderella. The second book, The Princess and the Fangirl, retells The Prince and the Pauper. Or if you're a Barbie fan like me, it's a retelling of The Princess and the Pauper. And the third book, Bookish and the Beast, is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. All of that leads me to point number 1 in why you should be reading this series, which is it is a modern day fairy tale retelling series. I'm a huge fan of fairy tales and I'm a huge fan of fairy tale retellings, and if you are as well, I really recommend this series. All of my favorite elements in all 3 of these fairy tales retold are in each of these books, and in fun new ways. For example, the pumpkin from Cinderella becomes a vegan food truck called the Magic Pumpkin, and the prince from Cinderella becomes an actor who is playing a prince in a adaptation of a very popular sci-fi franchise. And so it's just a very fresh look at all of these fairy tales and told in modern ways and in very nerdy ways as well, which brings me to point number 2. This series is a celebration of nerd culture. So each of these books are told in dual narrative, and one of the leads in each of these books is a huge fan of the fictional sci-fi franchise, which is called Starfield. And so you have one character in each of these books who's a huge nerd, loves this series, and we also have another character in each of these books who is an actor on the new film adaptation of Starfield. And they're either a huge fan or they're a huge anti-fan or somewhere in between. So you get both of these perspectives. Perspective number 1 from the huge nerd perspective is just that it's so much fun to be a nerd. I know, you probably know if you're a book nerd. You get to love something and you get to meet people who also love that thing that you love, and lifelong friendships can come out of it. And then also you have this community that will back you up, sometimes even if the person doesn't even know you that well. It's just such a lovely, lovely thing to be a nerd and to be part of a nerdy community. So we get all of that in each of these books, but we also get a very healthy discussion of the toxic aspects of nerd culture, which I really appreciate because it makes us not only aware of them, but we can also try to minimize the toxic aspects of these communities. So one example of the toxic aspects of nerd culture is that one of the actors really does not want to be part of the franchise anymore, but a lot of the fans of the franchise are kind of pressuring her to still stay in that role because they want that character to stay in the series without thinking of what she wants. That's one example, but there are definitely other examples in the series as well. So that all is to say that being a nerd is so much fun, but the community is not perfect. And so I like that there is a blend of a celebration of nerd culture in the whole series while still discussing the parts that need to be improved on. The next point in why you should be reading the Once Upon a Con series is that there is LGBTQ+ representation in every book. We have at least 2 sapphic romances, one of which is a main romance in the second book. We have at least 2 bi characters, one of which is a main character in the third book. And we also have a non-binary character who is one of the lead's best friends in the third book, and they appear in a lot of scenes. And now I bring you to point number 4. If you love cute, fluffy, fun, and funny books with compelling romances, you need to read this series. I love cute, fluffy romances, and I loved this series as a result. It was so well written, there was never a dull moment, and I flew through each book. The pacing was consistent, the characters were so likable, and you wanted each one of them to be happy. And I thought that the third book in the series was just as strong as the first. In fact, the third was my favorite in the series, which you don't hear a lot of people saying when it comes to trilogies. Usually you hear the first or second book is their favorite, but in this case, I just loved the third book, which is huge because I loved the first book too, and I really enjoyed the second. I will say that I was a little bit annoyed at Imogen, who is one of the main characters in The Princess and the Fangirl, which is the second book, but I did like her character growth and her journey, and I wanted her to be happy, and so by the end of the book I liked her character and I still flew through that book. All 3 of these books were books that I stayed up late to read and brought to work, read during my lunch break, read when I got home. I just love this series. I also love that you get a dual narrative in each of these books, especially since 2 of the dual narratives are 2 relationships, 2 romantic relationships, which really works for me when it comes to romance books because I don't like it when the romantic interest is shrouded in mystery. I like it when we know both of the characters and what they both wish for and both of their likes and interests and flaws and how they both grow. So I really like the fact that Geekerella and Bookish and the Beast, we get to see both perspectives of both people in the relationship. The second book, The Princess and the Fangirl, is a little bit different because it is dual narrative still. We do still get 2 perspectives, but they are the perspectives of the princess character and the fangirl character who aren't in a relationship together but are in relationships with other people. So we do not get the perspective of the romantic interests. However, we do get 2 romance stories in one book, so I still really liked that book. And before I go, I just want to say that I recommend reading all of these books in publication order because characters in previous books do show up in later books. And while you don't necessarily get the plot of the previous books spoiled, you do find out what happens to the main characters in later books. So to avoid any spoilers at all, I would read them in the order of Geekerella first, then Princess and the Fangirl, and finally Bookish and the Beast. So with all of that being said, I really hope that you pick up the Once Upon a Con series by Ashley Poston. It's now my favorite young adult romance series, and I enjoyed every single book. If you've read this series, please let me know in the comments below which book was your favorite, and if you're planning on picking up this series, please also let me know. If you've made it this far in the video and want to leave a comment, please leave me either a pumpkin emoji for Geekerella, or a princess emoji for the Princess and the Fangirl, or a rose emoji for Bookish and the Beast. Look to the stars, aim, ignite. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I will see you in a future video soon. Bye!